We make choices every day and all day, don't we? Whether it's what time we get up, whether we exercise or not, what food we eat, what route we drive to work, what we work on when we get to work. I mean, there's choices, and so much of it is habitual. We know this. We know that we have thousands. You hear all kinds of different numbers, 37,000, 47, 17, whatever. The number of thousands of repetitive thoughts we have every day kind of helps us be able to function, though, doesn't it? If we had to stop and constantly think so much about getting the cereal out of the cabinet, right? But would we agree that we also can be on autopilot? Maybe at times that we wish we weren't on autopilot. Conscious leadership. Conscious leadership is about being aware when it really matters. Let me tell you about a situation. My husband, Jeff, can we have a shout out for our photographer, Jeff? I always spring that on you. You're like, what? Jeff was driving home recently. So as he was driving down this road that was it just curves. You have to curve if you're going to be driving on the road. Our neighbor, Doug, who we know and like, came out of his home. And as he was driving toward this curve and Jeff was noticing, oh, there's Doug, he also noticed Doug is driving like this. And he doesn't ever not drive like this. As he drifts down the middle of the road and gets closer and closer, so Jeff, paying attention, thank heavens, hugs the curb without being on the curb, slows down, and eventually slams on the brake as Doug accelerates into the turn. Have we all not done dumb things before? Right, like that's one of those things I tell myself, why did I do that? It was so dumb. We've all done this. This is a human thing. Well, so what happens? They met that day, fender to fender. I was actually out on a walk when this happened, and I happened to come around where Jeff had been, corner, and saw these cars down here, and I'm going to tell you my witness account of what I saw happen. I saw this neighbor that we know get out of his car, and I really didn't even recognize my husband's car because I was like, what's going on up there in the road? And Doug jumped out. He went over to the driver's side, and now I know Jeff was trying to get his door unstuck. He couldn't get it out, but Doug immediately jumped into conscious leadership. He jumped up, came to see if the other driver was okay. I also saw him taking a moment. He paused as I'm still walking closer to them, and he's like picking up pieces of car out of the middle of the road, and I was like, what happened up there? Still not recognizing it's my husband's car. But I'm like, what's happening up there? And then I saw him pull out his phone. He's coming back to talk to the driver. And now I know from knowing the story, he not only stepped into his role as a conscious leader, he took on radical responsibility. What I heard him do was call the police. By the time I'd walked a block, he was already on with the police. They called the police immediately. I heard him say, oh, it was clearly my fault. I heard him then get on the phone with his insurance company. Now, at a time when many of us might say, would it have been smarter for him not to say anything, right? That's what they tell you at the insurance company. Don't take fault. No, he was a conscious leader taking radical responsibility. And I heard him tell both the police and the insurance company, it was clearly my fault. Jeff was able to get out of the car, and luckily everyone was okay. The result of Doug's actions that day were us having conversations to be able to say, hey, like we know each other, like this is unfortunate. It happened literally outside our houses, right, practically. The men were able to shake hands. They were able to be grateful and express their gratitude that no one was hurt. It could have been so much worse. And we have a relationship that is preserved. Conscious leaders. We've talked about this a little bit today. We're going to come at this a little bit different angle, a little different wording, but similar concepts that we've talked about today. Conscious leaders choose to respond, not react. Respond, not react. A conscious leader is aware. They're conscious. So not just awake, like we're out of the operating room, we're now conscious kind of thing. We're awake, yes, but we're also aware. And I like to think of consciousness in the term I mean as being a witness. It's almost like you're standing outside of yourself and noticing, right? You're noticing, oh, in this moment, like I saw Doug doing that, like what the heck happened here? And what Doug did was, I think, he flexed a muscle that he's been honing, that radical responsibility piece. He didn't step in, oh, it's not my fault, right? He owned it. We all want to know and be with people that own their choices. What I'm talking about with conscious leadership is not about a job title. I'm not talking about the owner, the manager. I'm talking about anyone can be a conscious leader. The soccer mom, right, who's maybe not even holding a job right now, definitely has the opportunity to be a conscious leader in the way we lead ourselves first, in the choices we make that are aligned with our values. When I say witnessing, as a conscious, paying attention to our actions, we're talking really about our thoughts, our beliefs, our actions, all of that coming together with integration, right? So emotional regulation, the integration of the whole piece, and especially the choices we choose to make. Reaction versus response. Reaction is a knee-jerk. The reaction, think about being in traffic. People react, right? There's that knee-jerk reaction versus a response where we've thought through. We take that moment to pause. We witness what's happening. Full transparency. I don't have this down. Does any of us have this down? 100%? I'm going to tell you, I didn't plan to tell you, but I'm going to tell you. They're all like that. I'm on the HOA board. Okay, we already know where this story's going. And so Jeff and I were walking the other night about 9 o'clock at night in the dark, and somebody was talking about, who was just talking about walking in the dark? It was Deb. And as we were walking along, I was talking about this meeting. This was just a couple nights ago. And ahead of us, around the corner, a man came lumbering around the corner, walking really fast right toward us. I'm sure Jeff's alerts was up because he rolls like that, but I was just talking about our showcase today. And as this man walked toward us, he literally walked right toward us and yelled at me because I'm on the board. Okay? So he knows I'm on the board, and he yelled at me something that was like just so out of the blue, and it was dark, and this is what I'm talking about. In those moments, have we flexed those muscles enough to where we can just immediately step into like recognizing what's going on here is not the fact that he's upset that I'm feeding the cats in the community, which is what it was. That's really not what the problem is that he's upset about, and I happen to know that. I'm going to tell you, honestly, I didn't handle that well. Now, I didn't yell back at him, but because he was just barreling on. But I did turn to my husband and say something I'm not proud of. I did. I'm human. And I think what's really important, I want to point this out, because I think often we get up here and we talk as speakers and we share, well, this is how to do it, this is how to do it. We need to be deep in the weeds with it. We need to be flexing those muscles, right? We need to be consciously aware. I knew as soon as I said it, and he heard me. I know that when we make choices like that let me say that differently. When I reacted, even though I thought I was just telling my husband as we kept walking, I've now damaged a relationship, right? In that moment, there was a release, and that's human. We're going to have that release. But what often happens when we don't be aware and really flex that muscle to lean into response and be aligned with our values is we can damage relationships. I have a damaged relationship now that as an HOA board member, I feel responsible for doing something about. Just keeping it real. right? Love this quote. Stimulus, car accident, whatever. A coworker takes a tone with you, right? A client drops their contract. Whatever it is that's happening that is that stimulus, the difference between the space between the stimulus and that response is what I'm talking about. It's in that second. Jeff's auto situation, the neighbor that came at us, all of that happened within just a couple of seconds. None of us are perfect. All of us can do more here. And that's where our power lies, is in that space between. Some of you heard me talk about this. I've shared this quote for years, or this formula for years. I love, love, love this formula. Dr. Michael Cromwell, Go Suck a Lemon. Isn't that a great title? I love this formula because it makes it so simple to remember. An activating event. We see the neighbor come at us, he hits the car. We believe, oh, that shouldn't have happened. We can all agree that shouldn't have happened. And then we have a consequence. We get to decide how we're going to feel about that. We have a consequence. It's our emotional feeling, our fear, our anger, our blame. Here's where all the power is. We get to diffuse. It's in that moment where we choose to align with our beliefs and our values and who we want to be. We can decide, we actually like Doug. Jeff wants to be his friend. He wants to be able to talk. They've talked since. I'm going to say, well, hey, how are you doing? Jeff's car's Jeff's car's ready now. The other guy got a new car. So we want to be able to, right? We want to have this evolved response. Conscious leadership. This is an example of such. Where does this show up for you? If you think about, and I shared with you vulnerably, and I'm not going to ask you to share with us, but can you think back to, did you have your own HOA yelling in the street moment? Did you had something happen where you feel like, I don't think I handled that as well as I'd like to recently? I'd like you to get that in your mind, and then I'd like for you to just pause and consider. Maybe take a breath. What could have been different there? That's the witness. What could have been different? How can I work that muscle so that next time I can catch it faster? That's the shift. Same outcome, or same situation, different outcome. As conscious leaders, we cannot completely avoid setbacks or challenges, whether it's something at work or in our personal life. Conscious leadership is really about who we be in all of our life, right? It's really more about recognizing there are always going to be setbacks, there are always going to be challenges. These are messages we've heard today, right? Our world. What's important is for us to bring a different us to the world, right? So we can work on us and our reaction. To me, conscious leadership is really self-directed leadership. And in that that space between stimulus and our response is where all of your power lies. The chance to grow stronger relationships, explore new opportunities, and really be able to find the success that we seek as teams, as business owners, as HOA board members. And I'll land it there, even though I didn't intend to land it on HOA board members. We will land it there.